Hey friends, welcome to my February garden vlog. Even though we're in the winter months, there's been a lot going on in the garden. We're actually starting here back in January, where we're finishing up adding some decomposed granite in a new area of my garden. I have this in the rest of my garden, and it just adds a nice consistent texture to the ground. It helps suppress weeds, and it also helps prevent water erosion. Earlier in the day, I finally got over to my local library and picked up the tomato seeds I had waiting for me. I had mentioned in an earlier video that I'm going to be planting 4 varieties of tomatoes this year, and I was waiting for these 3 packets to come in before I started them. So this year I'm going to be planting Marglobe, Yellow Pear, Rio Grande, and Celebrity. And I'm excited this year for my tomatoes because I haven't always had the best success growing tomatoes here. Mainly because I haven't really paid much attention to what variety grows best in my area. We have to go for smaller, faster maturing varieties because we just have such a short season here. So here I'm getting them started in these small seed starting trays, and I'm using my own starter mix of peat moss, vermiculite, and worm castings. And then I'm getting them under my grow lights with a heating mat underneath just until they start to sprout. My compost is breaking down really nicely, and I typically will flip it once a week or so, once I notice the temperature starting to drop. And that way the aeration and the added moisture from the flipping and the watering gets that process going again, and you'll see me doing this several times in this video. I'm also giving my flower cells a little drink here. These had sunflowers in them over the summer and they were so pretty. You can't see them now, but I have some seeds planted in there for the spring, and hopefully we'll be getting some nice spring blooms in the next couple of months. During the handful of nights we had freezing temperatures, my pepper plants finally gave in, and I decided it was time to cut them back and try to overwinter them. I've had good success doing this in the past, so I hope we'll be seeing them pop back up in the spring. I'm just pruning them back to soil level and giving them a little bit of insulation. I also completely removed a couple of the smaller serrano peppers because I really only need one for the amount of hot peppers we like to consume. Good morning, friends. It is a beautiful day and I'm heading out to the garden. It is the first week of February and we are having a fake spring, but it's not supposed to last and we should be getting some cooler temperatures again. Let's check our thermometer. This is 90, but I think that's a little off. It's not 90 degrees. So I just checked the Weather Channel and it says it's 76 degrees right now and going to be up to 83 today. So it's going to be warm for the first week of February. So I'll be a little bit incapacitated over the next week or so. I had surgery for carpal tunnel last week, and my doctor said no gardening for a week at least. I'm at the point now where it's a little bit of forced patience. I can't do any digging or lifting, anything weight bearing. We don't want to risk getting any kind of bacteria in the incision. So there are so many things I want to be doing right now in the garden, but I can't. So have to be patient. So there's not much else I can do but just give you an update and take you around for a little garden stroll. So we're getting very close to our last frost date. So it doesn't look like we're gonna hit freezing temperatures much more past maybe next week. So probably in 2 weeks, and when I'm able to, I'm gonna go ahead and plant out my spring seeds and starts around the 15th or so of February, and I'll definitely bring you along for that. I'm super excited. I've got a lot of things growing in my indoor seed trays. I harvested some lemons off of our tree, and I have a separate video coming out for that. They're definitely ripe and ready to be picked. I've probably harvested 20% of them, but there are still a ton of lemons on this tree. I have a separate video coming for my oranges. I've got a ton left, and they are just so sweet and yummy. And in that video, I'll be sharing a couple of different ways I use them. My asparagus fronds are finally turning brown and can be cut back here pretty soon. And I just noticed my first asparagus. That is so exciting. It's one of the things we got done, and it's not completely finished yet, but Kitty, I don't want you to dig in there. So this is my passion fruit vine on a trellis my husband created for me. We'll take this stake out here once I can weave things through a little bit more, but it's in the ground and ready to take off for the spring. So I realized I planted these potatoes over 3 months ago. I was concerned about the frost damage on the leaves, but as I was adding more soil thinking I had more time, I realized I've got a bunch of ready to harvest potatoes, but they're gonna have to wait a couple weeks, but I think they'll be okay. And over here, we have some cauliflower. Super excited about that. With my newer beds, finally have a little bit of growth. It's going pretty slow, and I'm not really surprised because these are new beds, new soil, and even though I used a lot of my own compost, the best kind of soil I could reasonably afford, it's just the first year for this bed. So it doesn't have a lot of the microbiomes and everything developed in the soil, which is definitely something I didn't really know about when I first started gardening, but I can definitely see the difference in some of my older beds versus my new beds. So I've got some carrots coming up. I tried to get most of the weeds out of here. My arugula is doing awesome. We've been eating off of it and giving it away, but sometimes I can't get to it and the leaves get pretty big. I don't like the taste once they get to a certain size, so I just have to kind of prune those away and put them in the compost, but they're doing really well. And then my bib lettuce is beautiful. And this is Swanson Black. I'm gonna try some now that it's ready. Here we have some little Caesar. I have what I marked as baby choy, but I don't think this is baby choy. I'm pretty sure that's spinach and I just marked it wrong. And finally, let's check in on the compost. I have a new pile started because this pile got up past this second brick, and when that happens, I know it's time to stop that one and start a new one, so I have a more completed pile by the time I need it. And it is literally doing nothing because I haven't been able to flip it. You can see the temperature is really low on this one. I'm trying to keep it moist and so it doesn't dry out, but you'll just have to wait another week or so before I can get out and flip it, although my husband has offered to flip it for me, which is very sweet, and I may take him up on that offer because I'm going to need this in a couple of weeks. So one of the things I need to do for this spring is to finish filling this 3-foot round bed and then this 4x6 bed. This one has the irrigation tube added. I think we have a cactus friend. He is very vocal. Now, if you just would sing and stay up there and not eat my seedlings, we would have no problems. Anyway, back to my garden beds. I just need to add the 1/4-inch smaller tubing on top once the soil is added. Got some pretty calendula coming up, and my violas are just going crazy. If I could get out here and pick them, I would be pressing them, but there will be more, I'm sure. The peas are starting to climb, and we've got some cabbage heads starting to form, which is awesome. Bees are loving the dill. If you would have told me I would have blooming poppies in February, I would just tell you you are lying. But here we are. Got some poppies. These are some poppies I planted from a seed bomb, and they're just loving this heat. Now let's go check on the seedlings inside. So as you can see, things are growing. Everything I planted pretty much came up. So you can tell I up-potted my cucumbers, my roselles, my pumpkins, and then I planted a few more things, some peppers, some chamomile, and my tomatoes are looking great. And my cumin finally sprouted. It just took a little bit longer, but I think they're looking good. Then in the back there I have more cucumber and some cosmos. So in another couple weeks, these are going to be hardened off and planted out in the garden, and I can't wait. Kitty mouth. You may remember from one of my earlier videos, I planted these fingerling potatoes in mid-October, and so it's been a solid 3 months, and this is my first time actually growing potatoes. And I had done a fair amount of research on how to plant potatoes, but what I didn't really grasp was the importance or the method of planting in sort of levels, meaning that you take your seed potato that has sprouted and you actually put it in the bottom of a barrel or a grow bag or whatever container you're growing them in, and as it grows you add more layers of dirt because it's actually growing upwards and outwards. So I didn't do that here. I actually just planted them sort of on the surface, but I'm pretty surprised at how much I got out of what was essentially 4 small seed potatoes. Next season I'm going to try to grow these in seed bags and follow that method of planting them lower and sort of layering the dirt as they keep growing. I definitely want to plant more and more deeply. So learning curve for sure, but I'm really happy with the way these turned out. Good morning, friends. So today I have a list of things I need to get done in the garden. I've been putting it off for as long as I possibly could. I'm now a couple of weeks out from surgery and I'm almost back to normal. I have some waterproof band-aids on to hopefully keep everything clean, but stitches are out, everything's great, and I'm ready to get some things done. So I thought I'd bring you along for the fun. I have some vegetables to harvest, I have some flowers to cut, I need to fill some new beds with soil. I mentioned that I needed to turn my compost there was no way I was going to be able to do that last week. So my sweet husband did it for me last week, and I had started a new pile, but when I went back to look at my main pile, it had compressed down pretty far. So we combined them back into one pile, and I think it'll be fine for what I need for the spring, which is almost here. It is mid-February. It's past our last frost date. It was really windy yesterday, and it's supposed to rain later this week, but I don't think we're going to have any more freezing temperatures. We only had a couple this year. Super mild winter, even for us. There was only a handful of nights below freezing where I had to cover my beds, but I think we're past that now, and I have a bunch of seedlings and starts in my laundry room that are itching to get out into the garden. But I got a couple things I got to get done before that happens. So let's go work in the garden. So I'd say this guy is ready to be harvested. It's nice and full, and usually when I harvest these before they start turning a little bit purple. That is just so gratifying. I've got another one on the other side. We're gonna have some cauliflower tonight. Let's check in on our compost. That's awesome. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Once it gets below the active zone in the orange is when I usually try to flip it. I have a lot of things in my garden that are reused from something else, and when we first put these planters in, they have a rough edge because they really weren't meant to be planters. So I took some old hose and put it around the perimeter to protect myself and my clothing from getting snagged or cut. However, after 5 years, these hoses are getting dried and brittle, and they're starting to get misshapen. So it's time to remove them, and I have another idea for protecting the edge. I got a big spool of this 1/4-inch tubing from my neighbor, and so I thought what I would try is putting a slit in one side and using this as a really low profile edging. I have no idea if this is going to work, but let's see if it does. The tricky part about this is that this cylinder has a spiral edge, so it's not consistent all the way around. It doesn't help that the tubing is cold and not very flexible. Well, that took 5 times longer than I thought it would, but I'm really happy with it. I just think it looks much more low profile, and I really like it. 1 down, 5 to go. Got some lettuce to harvest. I'm noticing my arugula is starting to bolt, so I'm probably going to take these out. I'm going to need this space pretty soon anyway, and I've kind of had my fill with arugula lately, but I will harvest some before I do that. I like arugula because it's kind of a combination to me of kale and spinach. It has a spicier taste, and I really like it. It grows really well for me too, so that's another bonus. Once any lettuces start to bolt, they do tend to get bitter. If you're new to gardening, the reason they bolt is because it's too warm. And we've definitely had some warm days, very mild winter, as I mentioned, so I think most of my lettuces are going to be finishing up this week. These will go right into the compost, so I always feel good about that. Hello, Miss Kitty. Dig out some weeds for me. I think I got enough lettuce for a couple days, so I'm gonna go put this inside and take a break. Wow, that's a lot for us. That's from our one rain last night. That's not bad. Well, thanks for joining me in the windy garden over the last couple of weeks. I think I'm going to end things here and pick it up next time with actually planting some seedlings. They are ready to be planted. So be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more. And if you'd like to give me a thumbs up, that would be super encouraging, and it really helps my little baby garden channel reach more viewers. So thanks for watching. See you next time.